The brutal world of Spartacus has always thrived on blood, betrayal, and fate. But Spartacus, House of Ashur, takes that formula and twists it into something far more dangerous, a reality where destiny itself can be rewritten. When the series premiered in December, it immediately raised one massive question for longtime fans of the original Starz show. How can Ashur be alive? And where exactly does this story fit within the established Spartacus timeline? Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Today's, we are going to get some answers. The answer is bold, unexpected, and deeply rooted in the mythology of the franchise. House of Ashur is not a sequel in the traditional sense, nor is it a prequel filling in unseen gaps. Instead, it exists as a full alternate history scenario, a what-if branch that splits from the original series at a single violent moment and reshapes everything that follows. To understand this new reality, we need to retrace the path of the original timeline, identify where it breaks, and follow the consequences of that fracture all the way to Ashur's rise as a dominus.
Do you desire to bear witness to another?
The original Spartacus timeline and its tragic certainty. The original Spartacus series, which ran from 2010 to 2013, told a largely linear story inspired by historical events, beginning with blood and sand, continuing through vengeance, and concluding with War of the Damned. The show followed Spartacus from enslaved gladiator to symbol of rebellion against the Roman Republic. His fate, much like in history and classic cinema, was always sealed. Spartacus was destined to die, but he would die free, having challenged the very foundations of Roman power. Along the way, the series introduced some of its most memorable characters, including Ashur and Lucretia. Ashur was a survivor by nature, cunning, manipulative, and always looking for a way to climb higher than his station allowed. Lucretia, on the other hand, embodied Roman ambition and cruelty, wielding influence behind the scenes of the House of Ashur with elegance and venom in equal measure. Both characters met definitive ends in the original canon. Ashur was decapitated by Naevia during the chaos of Spartacus' vengeance, and Lucretia, having lost everything, chose death rather than humiliation. These deaths were final, or at least they were supposed to be.
Spartacus once stood as wild, yet by will and teachings of Domenius.
The point of divergence, where the timeline breaks. Every alternate reality story hinges on a single moment where events unfold differently. In House of Ashur, that moment is Ashur's death at the end of Vengeance. In the original timeline, Naevia's blade ends Ashur's life without hesitation, serving as poetic justice for his betrayals and cruelty. History moves forward from there, leading into War of the Damned and the eventual defeat of Spartacus by Crassus. In the House of Ashur timeline, however, death is not the end. The series opens in a haunting, surreal space that exists outside the mortal world, a crumbling, shadowy version of the gladiatorial arena. This is where Ashur awakens after his execution, confused, furious, and confronted with the reality of his own insignificance. It is here that the show introduces its most shocking twist and its most important returning character.
Spear that claimed the life of Spartacus.
Lucretia's return and the bargain beyond death. Lucretia's appearance is the linchpin of the entire series. She does not return as a living Roman matron walking the streets of Capua, but as something far more symbolic. Existing in this liminal afterlife, Lucretia represents ambition unfulfilled and power denied by fate. She understands Ashur in a way few ever did, because she sees in him the same hunger that once drove her. Lucretia offers Ashur a choice. He can accept his death and fade into nothingness, or he can seize a second chance by stepping into a new stream of time, one where his death never truly happens. This new path, however, comes at a cost. Ashur must ensure the destruction of the slave rebellion and erase Spartacus as a symbol. In other words, Ashur must become the architect of Rome's victory. This moment is where House of Ashur firmly establishes itself as an alternate reality rather than a simple continuation. The rules of fate have been bent, and the original canon is no longer absolute. Ashur accepts the deal without hesitation, proving that even in death, his ambition outweighs any moral restraint. Lucretia vanishes, her role complete, and the new timeline locks into place. Ashur's survival and the rewriting of history. When Ashur returns to the world of the living, he does so not as a dead traitor, but as a wounded survivor whose destiny has shifted. In this altered history, his survival allows him to embed himself deeper into the Roman power structure at precisely the right moment. This is one of the most significant deviations from the original timeline. In House of Ashur, Ashur becomes a decisive factor in the fall of the rebellion. Whether by direct action or calculated betrayal, the narrative credits Ashur as the man responsible for Spartacus's death. This single change reshapes the political landscape of Rome and elevates Ashur from expendable pawn to celebrated asset. Rome rewards loyalty and results, and Ashur delivers both. As payment for his service, he is granted wealth, status, and the ultimate symbol of power for a former slave, ownership of a gladiator school.
The House of Ashur presents upon the sands.
The birth of the House of Ashur. The irony of Ashur's reward cannot be overstated. He becomes the dominus of the very institution that once broke him, the former House of Badiatus. Renamed the House of Ashur, the ludus stands as a monument to his rise and a reminder of the cruelty that shaped him. This transformation is central to the themes of the series. Ashur has achieved everything he ever wanted, but he has done so by fully embracing the system that enslaved him. Set roughly 6 months to a few years after the events that would have concluded War of the Damned, House of Ashur explores this new status quo. The rebellion is over, Spartacus is dead, and Rome believes itself secure once again. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmers. The Senate remains divided. Old rivalries between Crassus and Pompey continue to grow, and Ashur's presence unsettles everyone who sees him as an upstart playing at nobility. Returning characters and familiar shadows. Despite its altered timeline, House of Ashur does not completely abandon the legacy of the original series. Lucy Lawless's return as Lucretia, even in a limited and symbolic role, reinforces the idea that this new reality is born directly from the old one. Her influence lingers over Ashur's actions, and her shadow looms large over the house that once bore her name. Nick E. Tarabi's Ashur is the emotional and narrative center of the series, but he is surrounded by a cast of new characters designed to reflect the changing world. Figures like Chorus, Aquila, Tarchon, and Hilaria represent the next generation of power players, gladiators, and manipulators who must navigate a Rome forever altered by the rebellion. Their presence underscores that while history may have changed, brutality and ambition remain constants. Politics after Spartacus, power without freedom. One of the most compelling aspects of House of Ashur is its shift in focus from open rebellion to political warfare. Ashur no longer fights for survival in the arena. He fights for legitimacy in the Senate and stability within his ludus. Despite his wealth and title, he is still viewed as low-born, untrustworthy, and disposable by Rome's elite. This tension drives much of the show's drama. Ashur must constantly prove his value while defending his position against those who would happily see him fall. The rivalry between Crassus and Pompey looms over every decision, reminding viewers that Rome's victories are always temporary and its alliances fragile. Thematic core. Can a slave ever truly rule? At its heart, House of Ashur is not just about an alternate timeline. It is about the cost of power. Ashur's journey asks a haunting question. If a man born into slavery is given absolute authority, does he dismantle the system that oppressed him, or does he become its most ruthless enforcer? The series leans heavily into the latter, portraying Ashur as a man who has internalized Rome's cruelty and weaponized it for his own survival. The ghosts of the past are ever present. Every stone of the ludus reminds Ashur of who he used to be and what he sacrificed to become who he is now. Lucretia's bargain saved his life, but it condemned him to a destiny defined by constant struggle, manipulation, and bloodshed. A new reality built on one choice. Spartacus, House of Ashur, ultimately stands as a bold experiment within the franchise. By introducing an alternate reality, it frees itself from the constraints of historical inevitability, while staying true to the spirit of the original series. The timeline diverges at Ashur's death, but its consequences ripple outward, reshaping Rome, redefining victory, and transforming a despised villain into a central figure of power. This is a world where Spartacus's dream of freedom dies sooner, where Rome tightens its grip, and where one man's ambition alters the course of history. Whether Ashur can maintain his fragile empire, or whether fate will once again demand blood, remains the central question of this new reality. One thing is certain, the arena may change, but the fight for power in Spartacus never truly ends.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.